Hello, everyone. I'm just going to try to share the screen. There we go. Does it work?
Yes, it works.
My God. First attempt. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm up at latitude 62, 63, and the snow is going away faster than usual. So we have all the birds are here a month early, and it's weird, but it's also nice, sadly. Here we go. Okay, so I run a business. I founded a business 12 years ago called Brennan Ice Cider. We make ice cider, which is an ice wine produced from apples rather than from grapes. And we're in Umeå, in Västerbotten, which again is latitude 62, 63. And as a wine producer, today we're in negociant, so we buy most of our fruit from the southern part of Sweden, about 150 tons a year. But being megalomaniac, we felt we had to also grow our own apples, or at least look into the possibility of growing apples on a large scale commercially up in the north. So we started this project, commercial and productive apple growing in northern climate. So the background again is that we needed raw material for our winemaking, for a growing winemaking operation. Today, Brennan Ice Cider produces about 100,000 bottles a year. We sell about 25% of that on export, so on and so forth. And we wanted to move from purchased fruit to grown fruit, and we want to grow our own fruit because that's the way that the wine business is built. Value is inferred by place, very much, or 100% even. We drink wine because of where it's from to a large extent. So we started very early on, and having been operational commercially with the winery for only 2 years, we started trial orcharding in 2014 and 2016. Planted about 1.5 hectares. We were encouraged by that, and so we applied for a fairly large EIP Agri grant in 2019, and we were awarded that grant. So the project was meant to establish the baseline for an apple terroir in the north, specifically focused on producing apples for ice cider and cider production. So we started out by mapping the region, looking for microclimates. And we took measures early on to establish the possibility of using all of these sites and all of these trees as an open laboratory to develop and research other things in relation to unconventional crops in what was previously thought in a suboptimal climate. And this was done in collaboration between us and our partner, Boreal Orchards, a good friend and partner, Daniel Pacurar, who is a Romanian agronomist with experience both from the forestry industry as well as microbiology and vineyards in Denmark and so on and so forth. And we gathered, the Farmers Association, the local governments, our apple retailer in the south we're part of the project. And luckily, we happen to have a large nursery on the other side of the Gulf in Finland, Blomqvist Plantskola, which is actually specialized, Leif Blomqvist, in northern apple varieties and northern berry varieties, and developed a number of his own, and also wrote a number of books on the subject. So he's kind of an authority on what works up in the north. We gathered about, in the end, we had many more who wanted to join in. We looked at their sites. We looked at how they were motivated. We did soil analysis, and we decided to distribute these sites very broadly across the region. So the northernmost site is in Älvsbyn, which is latitude 65, kind of an inland climate. And then the southernmost site is in Hammarstrand, which is further south from us, about latitude 60, but also inland climate. And then like 16 sites in between, about 0.5 hectare each. And so by the end of the project in September last year, we established about 10 hectares, about 12,000 apple trees. There is a map here. Can you see it? Okay, yeah. So this map sort of sort of, even though it doesn't give you a huge context of the country, you can look at a larger map later to see the distribution of sites in terms of latitude and other climate, other factors. 70 apple varieties planted on high vigor rootstocks, hardy varieties, and they're planted traditionally, so they're not on a trellis, but they're planted very densely, about 1,200 trees per hectare. And we've chosen, of course, late varieties with good storage traits because that's what we need as a winemaker. Now, there's no exclusivity for these growers to sell their apples to us. Some of them will use them for themselves. Others will sell them to us. Others will sell them to other people. So the goal here is also to establish an ecosystem of cider producers and juice producers in the region that can benefit from this. And also that this become a role model for taking the risk and trying crops that might otherwise not be. I mean, we've talked to academia in Sweden, and when we started, they said this is not going to work. Don't do it. And then we'd established a bunch of trees, and we've started harvesting them and making wine. And they go, "You don't. This is not going to work. Don't do it." So you have to kind of color outside the box a little bit. Yeah, it's a sad expression, but there you go. I mean, we just decided to just do it, and it seems to be working really well, actually. So like, I think this fall and next fall, we will see a broad swathe of these orchards actually producing tonnage, which will start us very quickly on the road of switching part of our purchased material to harvested material. So that's a big leap right there. The first trial orchard we started harvesting in 2020, 2021, and we made ice cider from that orchard for 4 years. So it does seem to work. One of the upsides of producing something like ice cider from 1 hectare of apples is that a conventional hectare has to produce around 30 to 60 tons a year to even break even if you sell it into the retail into grocery stores. As a wine producer, if you own the value enhancement chain, you don't have to produce even near that per hectare to break even. So our break even calculus is about 5 tons per hectare, and we make a good amount of money at 10 tons a hectare. But we believe that these orchards, some of them can probably produce around 25 tons per hectare per year because of the varieties, and also because of the longevity of the system. So it's not trellised, it's not low vigor rootstocks, and that means that the orchards will likely stand for a lot longer than 15 or 20 years, which is also the case with conventional orchards these days. So we're looking at 75 years or 100 years perhaps of production, which changes the budget quite a lot for the grower. Yeah, then we've trained people. We've learned ourselves from previous orchards, but post establishment activities include pruning, training, general advice, replanting of trees that have died, methods for rodent winter protection, which is the biggest problem up here in terms of pests, that is non-invasive. And sort of mechanical rather than chemical or anything else. Yeah, this is what it can look like. Quite beautiful. Many of these sites also are placed in fantastic places. So you don't need a huge excuse to go site visiting because they're by rivers and on valley sides. And it's beautiful. We've worked a lot with trying to get press. Sadly, there are a lot of pictures of me here. I'm sorry about that, but there you go. We've worked a lot with communication of this project, and we've had a lot of attention as a result. I think this is one of those venues. So we'll continue to follow these sites, of course, as buyers of the apples to the extent that the growers want to sell to us. But we also have a baseline system laid for harvesting data out of these orchards as well in the future, again, to use as baseline data, baseline material to build interfaces to simplify and enable people who want to try odd crops in the north. I say odd. My personal opinion here is that academia is way behind on the possibilities, and well served to take a few more risks. Although I know that's not how it works. But apples are probably a crop that would. Yeah, there are a lot of things that you could do that would be considered much more risky than planting apple trees at my latitude. That would probably work. Yeah, we showed that it's possible. We tried to inform and educate, and we filled a need for ourselves and a couple of other producers of ice cider in the region and cider in the region in the meantime. Yeah, I think that's it.